Hey, how's it going? It's Aaron here. Hey, so I'm going to do a 10-minute video or less on how to read the Bible or how to study the Bible. And what I'm going to do is to talk about some Bible basics to help you get started reading your Bible and understanding what the Bible is, but then also how to start understanding the Bible better too. So let's get started. What is the Bible? Well, it's this book, and sometimes it's in a phone. What the Bible is multiple books, actually. It's multiple books with multiple chapters in each book and verses that are part of the chapters. There's multiple authors that have written all of the books. If you go to the front table of contents, you can see lists and lists of books. So there's tons of books in this by multiple authors. And there's two parts. So there's an Old Testament, which is like almost all of the Bible. And then there's the New Testament, which is like the end. The Old Testament is everything before Jesus' time. And then the New Testament is everything during Jesus' life and then afterwards. So there's two main parts that have been written over thousands of years. So that's a lot of time between the first book and the last book. Now, with that said, there's some weird things that you might stumble across, and there's some things that are in the Bible that maybe are just really hard to understand, and there's also different types of genres of books that maybe we're not used to. Meaning, there's poetry. I don't know how often you read poetry, but there's a poetry book that has lots of different poems. There is a wisdom literature. There is prophetic literature, or things that where people are trying to predict the future. There are narratives or stories. So there's all kinds of different types of genres, just like we have in books today. But sometimes it's hard for us to understand that each book is different, and you have to have a different approach when you're reading each one to understand it really well. So there's different types of books, and they also, like I said, have been written over thousands of years. So sometimes the language that's used is a little bit different than what we would use now. So you need to know that going into it of, if it sounds a little off, how can I understand this a bit better in today's language? Now, different Bibles do that a little better of helping you understand it in today's language by using different types of translations, it's called. There aren't different versions of Bibles, there's different translations. And what that means is, since the Bible wasn't written in English, what? Who knew? It wasn't written in English. It was written in Greek and Hebrew. But since it wasn't written in English, people had to translate the Greek and Hebrew into English. And when you translate another language, there's sometimes just not words that other languages have, so you have to kind of describe things. Well, that's what these different translations have done. So the one I have right now, it's called NLT, or New Living Translation. It's one that tries to be a little bit more contemporary and in our context. Now, there's other ones that are just as great. For example, English Standard Version. They try to stay really close to the original language, but maybe it's not as easily understood in today's context. There's the King James Version. There's a NIV, or which means the New International Version. So there's different types of translations that are translated from the original language to English, but they all have their own intention. I'd recommend NLT. It's really easy to understand, and it's what we recommend at RCC too. So there's different translations. There's different ways you can read the Bible, meaning you can open the Bible up and look for specific topics. So in the back of the Bible, you have a concordance and dictionary, it's called. So you can look up, so if I want to read about God's wrath, intense, right? But if I want to read about God's wrath, I can look that up, and then I also can see the verses that deal with that. If that's something interesting to you, you can then read about that topic and go to each verse. You can also read exegetically, it's called. Now that's kind of a big churchy word, but what that means is reading from the start of a book and trying to understand what topics that book is talking about. And then lastly is devotionally. A lot of times there's different plans or devotions which means people have put together a reading plan that kind of bring you on a journey of understanding the Bible. So those are the different ways that you can read it. I mentioned you can do it in a paper format, or you can do it on your phone. And what I want to do is, before we talk about specifically doing that, is what you can do to set yourself up for success. A couple things quick is have a specific time to read. Maybe it's every morning. Maybe it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Maybe it's Sunday mornings, but a specific time to read it. Set an expectation for your accomplishment is another thing. How often are you going to read? How many verses? How many chapters? How many minutes? Set an expectation so you feel good about what you've accomplished. Have someone else read it with you, meaning, hey, let's read this book throughout the month, and then we can kind of talk about it. So maybe having someone else that reads along with you. Telling other people you're doing it sometimes really helps too, keeps you accountable. Read something that's interesting to you. So pick a topic that's really interesting. And then last but not least, pray about it. Have God help you in the process of reading the Bible. Things not to get embarrassed about as you're reading things is how to pronounce names and cities and even some words. I stumble with this, and I'm a Bible, I went to school learning about the Bible, so don't feel embarrassed about that. Your desire to read, don't feel embarrassed about that. People really struggle with this. I struggle with this. And sometimes it's just tough to have a desire to read the Bible. And then confusion. Know that everybody gets confused at times, and know that's okay. It's okay to ask questions and to ponder things for a while. Now, for me, I've gone through different stages of reading the Bible. For me, I started reading the paper Bible. I liked it because I was able to underline things. I was able to circle things. I was able to write notes on the side. So that was like really awesome for me, and it was separate from distraction. Then I kind of transitioned into my phone, but there's pros and cons to your phone too. I use the Bible app. You can go get this app at any app store, but what it looks like is you go to it and it looks kind of like this. You have the verses, you can look for a specific book, chapter, whatever it is, and you can do highlights, you can do notes, you can do saves, so it kind of keeps everything all together for you. But it's on your phone, meaning there's distractions. I just got a notification right now. I would have got distracted by that. So there's pros and cons to each. One pro to this is you also have it with you all the time, and there's also audio for many of the translations. So you can listen to the Bible if, let's say, you're not really into reading too. What I'm doing personally right now is I'm reading the Bible in a year. So I have a specific app on my phone here. I'll pull it up for you. And what I'm doing is I follow the plan that I selected here, and they have multiple plans. You can go to Find Plans and find a devotional plan. But then what it does is it gives you a specific day and then all of the scripture that goes with it. And I just hit it, and it goes right to it. So I don't even really have to look for things, and I can go right to it. Now, like I said, I'm reading that one plan. I have other plans started, but in my Bible in a year plan, here's what it looks like. I've missed 28 days. So I'm 28 days behind, but I've accomplished over 100 days. So that's pretty awesome for me. But I just get caught up when I can. And this keeps track of where I left off. So that's really helpful for me. What I'd recommend for you as you're starting reading a Bible is I would start with a gospel, meaning Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. Those are books in the Bible. And what I would do is I'd open it up, and how it works is you'd find the one you want. So let's say I want to start with Luke. I'd go to Luke, and then the chapter is the big number. So the big number there, and then the verse would be the small number. So I'd start at chapter 1 of Luke, and I'd start reading it. And this would be an account of Jesus. I'd start reading it. I'd take notes. I would try to understand exactly what's going on. Maybe I just read for 5 minutes and just kind of like take it in and maybe jot something down that I took away from that reading. Another thing you could do is, if you want to do the Bible app, is I would download the Bible app and then look at the different plans. You can search for things. There's ones that deal with sports. There's ones that deal with anger. There's ones that deal with hope, all kinds of different plans. And then it gives you the scriptures that you can follow along. I'd highly, highly recommend these things. Now, as I wrap up, know that if you have questions as you're getting started reading the Bible, I'd love to help you out with that and get you on track of maybe even want a recommendation of a devotional or something you should read. I'd love to help you with that. So submit your questions. And then next time we're doing a vlog like this, we're going to talk about how to pray. Now, I know that sounds basic, but we're going to talk about the specifics of what does that even look like to pray? How do I do that? And I'm going to give you specific examples, and then we'll actually do it together. So that's our next vlog. I hope this is helpful learning about the Bible. Again, if you have questions, let me know. See you guys next time.